We are back on Morning Line. John Vile from MTSU with us, taking your phone calls and comments on the latest in politics, the impeachment, and the upcoming presidential race. We've got some callers waited through the break, and we'll go next to Bruce. Good morning, Bruce.
Hey, Nick, how are you, buddy?
Good, Bruce. What's on your mind?
Well, I wish you'd run for president. I'd vote for you.
Thanks.
Hey, that lady that just called in, she sounded just like my mother. And, you know, I'm not crazy about abortion myself, but here's the deal. Here's reality. They're going to use, the Republicans are going to use the abortion thing for votes.
Well, I think the Democrats will too. But the Democrats will too. You have to concede that it's an issue on both sides.
Exactly. But here's what upsets me with people, Nick, and I mean, I'm a Democrat, but here's the biggest thing that upsets me. The God-fearing people, which I am, but they're all supporting this fella in the White House, and I sure hope, and I'm not being judgmental, but I sure hope that they don't think that they're voting for a born-again Christian in the White House.
That's interesting. We were just talking about that during the break, that there is a core group, and you told me you've got an article coming out in the Tennessean soon, but look at evangelicals, and I'm not an evangelical. I know some, and I've talked to some who have said, look, we really don't like this president as a person, but they
like the policies.
They like the policies,
Yep.
And while they really hate the fact that they have to vote for him as a person because they didn't like the call on Access Hollywood and all this. That's stuff that runs contrary to everything they believe. But they still vote for him in spite of that because of some of the other issues, and that really their dream candidate would be Vice President Pence.
Potentially.
Okay, but still they're going to vote for this president despite the personal distaste for him because of policy. Does that make sense?
I don't know if it makes sense, but it's true.
That's what I've been told by some evangelicals. They say, oh, well, we don't like him, but we have to support his policies because we know this Democratic candidate just won't be on the same page with us on these specific politics, like he said, abortion. Let's go next to Leon. Leon, good morning. Hi, Leon.
Yes, how you doing this morning?
Good. What's on your mind?
Yes, I was seeing the Republicans are getting ready to cut off food stamps, and I just was wondering, the very people he cutting off food stamps is a lot of the people that voted for him. And I was just wondering, are the people who vote for him, are they embracing his racism?
Okay, I don't know. Now, I don't know about the food stamp program and how that's going to play out, but this is another interesting thing about this president. He's done some things that you could argue his advisors would say, look, you can do this, but you don't have to, and if you do it, it could hurt your re-election campaign. And I point to tariffs, because tariffs have hammered farmers in a large measure, okay? Now, he has provided subsidies to compensate them, but it's hammered some farmers in the Midwest who are hardcore supporters of him, and I saw heard a recent article on NPR where they talked to some of those farmers who, despite really suffering some financial hardship, continue, at least some of them, to support him.
They have sort of this longer term hope that,
They say, we're in it already, we're going to stick with it now. And so they stay that way. And so I don't know about how many folks who are on food stamps that supported the president. There were some, and I don't know the food stamp program, but
I'm not familiar enough with it really to comment, other than, Republicans tend to be a little bit, they often see food stamps more as handouts, whereas Democrats see it as sort of the social safety net.
Right. All right. Let's go next to Tony. Tony, good morning. Hi, Tony.
Hey, good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Every time you get to speak on, nobody talks about these soldiers. I was a military man. These soldiers are suffering. Look how many died in World War II and I. And we still dealing with the Russians. And Russia, they was involved in the Korean War, sending weapons in there, but they could never analyze and say it. But I don't understand, you got a president that don't support these troops like he should be, and of course he's never been in the war himself in the army, but like President Obama, but he's still not supporting these troops. And a lot of these guys, families, and grandparents are turning over their graves.
Well, how specific?
About Russia.
I hear you, Tony. But specifically, can you tell me where you see what lack of support upset you?
Yeah, when he gonna go against Russia, Russia hurt a lot of these families in World War II and World War I, and then involved in all. You can't go along with the arch enemy like that. You're supposed to attack him on every front.
It is interesting. I don't know if maybe you have a thought on the president and the military, but it does seem oftentimes when he's overseas at these meetings, he cozies up to some of our traditional enemies and seems to alienate some of the leaders of Europe. Not that they don't have legit disagreements, but it's like, hey, I look at, France is a friend, Russia is not. Okay,
Right.
Let's be real clear on that. And if you feel otherwise, you're wrong. So France is a friend, Russia's not. That doesn't mean France is perfect. But come on, folks. I mean, we know who our allies are and who we can count on.
Canada is another example.
Canada's another one. So,
To correct one little thing here, we were actually allied with Russia during World War II. We were allied with them against Germany. But he's right, particularly in the aftermath of World War II, the Cold War period lasted through at least, 1989. And it is, Republicans are usually the ones, going back a piece, but 1952, communism, Korea, and corruption. They're always associating the Democrats with losing to the communists or giving way to the Russians or the Chinese. And there's a certain irony in thinking that that Trump seems to be meeting more with Russian ambassadors than he does with the Ukrainian prime minister who's, opposing Russian aggression.
Yeah, or complimenting the leader of North Korea.
Yes. Well, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Oh, God. All right, let's go to Janet. Janet, good morning. Hi, Janet.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's on your mind?
Well, I just got some comments, and then I'll hang up, and you can go for it.
Sure.
One is, the Republicans, they were so against Trump in the beginning. Now they're all backing him, basically. Democrats have done everything trying to destroy this man. I think one of the biggest problems, other than politically correct garbage that's going on nowadays, I think the news media is one of our biggest monsters. And it's not like it used to be. Now, nobody can do the news without putting their 2 cents and their biased opinions in it. And it's a shame. And a president tweeting is kind of weird, but it's the only way at least we can hear it out of the horse's mouth anymore.
That's true. Now, that's true. There's no question about how he feels. He sends it out, and that's a unique thing about this president.
Yeah, at least we know, and then we can take it and decide whether it's truth or not.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Look, I may not always agree with everything that the president tweets, but I do appreciate that he just puts it out there. That's the first president in history to have a vehicle like this because of social media and the way it's developed. Who's using it? I mean, it was around. President Obama could have done that. Did he ever tweet? Maybe he did once in a while. I don't know. Or going back, it's been around for a while. But this president really does go social media.
To put a little perspective on what Janet said, it's hard for me to see that what's happening to Trump is any more partisan than what happened to Obama. I mean, he, throughout his entire administration, until sort of toward the end, there were continuing questions as to whether he had even been born in the United States.
Which is absurd.
So I don't think, I'm sympathetic to what she says about turning on the media instead of being able to get the news, often getting commentary. But I do think that the president's attacks on the media are not very helpful. I think if he catches the media in a mistake, he ought to point out what the mistake is instead of attacking the media as individuals. They play a very, sounds like I'm being a little obsequious here, but media play a very important role in our country.
Thank you. There's no question. It does play an important role. She may be going to also. I mean, there are straight news reports, whether you're watching CBS Evening News or Fox News, where they're just kind of delivering the news. Now, then you have things like the Hannity Show or a show like this where we may share some policies. This clearly is separate from, just straight hard news coverage. The question comes into play sometimes for some folks about you're going to deliver it straight, but it's deciding what stories to cover. And not to put a slant on it, but you can choose to cover one and not the other. Sometimes people can say partisanship can come into play in that. And I'm acutely aware of it. Look, I have strong opinions on a wide variety of things. And when I'm in the newsroom or in the morning meeting or putting my stories together, I always try to take pains to look over my script and make darn sure that I've been as fair as I can with both sides, even though I may agree with only one,
right.
and I vet it, and that hopefully someone who sees one of those stories on the newscast has no idea what my opinion is. And it's the same way on most issues on my Facebook page.
We need more shows like this where where we talk instead of shout.
Yeah, I
and
shout
much
sometimes.
but much of what you see on TV, just
just
a bunch of
shouting.
people interrupting one another, shouting. It's a little bit like congressional hearings.
Yeah, exactly. It's gotten that way, and the civility, I don't know, but I don't disagree with some of what she said there. The media can always do better, and,
Sure.
and we try to do that every day here at News Channel 5. Listen, Professor, thank you for
Enjoyed
coming
it.
on, and we'll see how this all plays out, and certainly have you back in the new year as we see what happens
forward
in
to
the
it.
Senate, and then as we count down to the presidential election. But have a happy holiday and
Will
good
do.
Merry Christmas, all right?
Yes.
It's good to see you, sir. Look, we'll take a break, be back with a programming note right after this.